G'day folks, ZiggyD here with another Last Epoch guide. Today covering what might be one of the best overall farming strategies to come out of the new Woven Echoes and Weaver tree. And that is the combination of the false temple echoes that are filled with shrines and the Lostwood Folly, which adds woven enemy packs to the surrounding echoes, effectively juicing them up, so I'm sure you can see what's happening here. Look, you've probably already seen this one. It's a pretty amazing Supreme Pizza farming strategy that gives you a bit of everything you want. I spent about an hour filming B-roll for this, including like the setup time and everything, and I grabbed 3/4 of a level at level 98, which is pretty good. Over 20k Memory Amber, a 3 LP Titan Heart, a great pair of Advent of the Arrays, and a few other good 3 LP uniques. So it was a pretty good little farming session. This is a self-sustaining setup. It gives you enough Memory Amber and map drops that you can easily keep doing this for as long as you want. I often get about 500 to 600 Amber just from one pack of monsters, so each map easily pays for itself. This is a strategy that's better on faster moving characters, but it's safe and powerful for every build because it revolves around taking advantage of just many shrine buffs, making you several times more powerful. It can be run on higher corruption than what you're used to doing as well as a result, so that can help you boost your overall loot gains. It's very fast and fun, but as the downside, or maybe upside for some of you, it is very repetitive. So it's the same 2 maps over and over, which is very good for learning layouts and becoming more efficient, but it's bad for keeping things interesting visually. But I know some of you are grinders that like to do the same content, and this lets you do just that. There's a few other people messing around with this strategy, but here's a very comprehensive guide as well as some extra tips for juicing it up a bit more. So let's give you a step-by-step how to execute this strategy well. Step 0, before you do anything, is to get as many woven passives as you can. You don't need a full tree to do this, but the more passives you can get, the better the strategy will be overall. You want to complete any and all woven echoes that you have and can currently do to earn some more points. You want to do them all at least once. If you've got 15 to 20 points, that's definitely enough to get you started. And I've linked a 20-point starter tree and a full 50-point Weaver tree in the description for you to check out. So the actual step 1 is to buy some echoes. Go to Mask, and with any Memory Amber you have, purchase Lostwood Folly and False Temple echoes. You only need rank 3 to buy them both, so you can do this very early on. And Lostwood Follies are 1000 Amber and the False Temples are 750 Amber each. You want to buy them in a ratio of roughly 2 to 1 False Temples to each Lostwood Folly. And it's not a bad idea to just have a couple extra False Temples on top. Don't worry if you're kind of broke right now though. If just get 1 Lostwood Folly and at least 4 False Temples. I have a broke version of the setup in step 4 for you. The good news is, as I mentioned, this strategy is self-sustaining. You'll get more Amber than it costs to buy these sets of echoes, and you'll likely be getting more of the echoes on the way for free too. This strategy, more than others, causes you to kind of cycle through Memory Amber a lot, so you get a lot of Amber, but you spend a lot of Amber, and that's actually how you go about leveling the Woven faction as quickly as possible too. So it's a pretty slow faction to rank up, but this is one of the better ways that I've seen. So after you've got your Woven Echoes, step 2 is to pick a timeline. You preferably want to choose a timeline with a boss drop, blessing, or echo reward that you want to farm. And as always, pretty much all strategies are mostly worth doing in empowered timelines. If you're still in normal timelines, the first goal and priority is always to push to those empowered timelines as much as possible and to do whatever you can to get there, even if you're only just barely surviving. So you'll be completing a lot of echoes. There's plenty of chances to fight the timeline boss during this, and the false temples each have normal random echo rewards. So the timeline you pick does matter a little bit at least. Step 3 is, once you pick your timeline, to locate a cemetery. Begin completing normal echoes until you locate a cemetery map, which is generally within a few echoes. But if you imprint the Cemetery of Reweaving in the Woven and Loomed Riches imprint sockets on the tree, that will speed up finding a cemetery. You want to run your cemetery or Cemetery of the Reweaving map. And if you do a reweaving one, you can use this opportunity to recycle any woven echoes that you don't need for a chance of more Lostwood Follies and False Temples. Then you'll want to use the altar for step 4. As a quick side note, I love learning the different ways you can really effectively help people learn something complicated. It's kind of my thing. That's why I'm a big fan of this video's sponsor, Boot.dev. That's right, this is the sponsored segment. Boot.dev make learning back-end web dev from start to finish super easy. They do it by breaking it down into bite-sized lunch break steps. The best way to learn is just to not get bored and actually doing the thing, you know, writing code and building real projects. As a coding noob, which I 100% am, while having a cuppa today, I learned about coding functions in Python by fixing a bug in code for an RPG. And fixing that bug and doing that made me think, like, if we wanted to implement modifiers from, say, a passive skill tree, for example, we could just expand the area of circle function to include another parameter, like increased area of effect. And then you'd be able to plug that in as well to the function. How cool is that? To be able to like infer the likely next steps in creating a game like that. Boot.dev is effective. It offers a solid pathway to a real career as a programmer, and the content is free to read and watch in guest mode. There's a free demo of every course as well, and a 30-day no questions asked refund policy for the subscription. So go to boot.dev and use my code ZiggyD Gaming to get 25% off your entire first year if you choose the annual plan. Let's get back to the video. The broke version of step 4, if you can only afford, say, a single Lostwood Folly, this will cover kind of a memory amber efficient setup so that you can build up a bit more of a stockpile to go to the more efficient strategy. So you'll want to place a Lostwood Folly on the edge of your echo web and surround it with as many false temples as you can. Normally we're going to daisy chain these, but for this setup, you're just trying to get as much amber out of that one investment as possible so that you can buy several Lostwood Follies and, you know, a bunch more false temples. Your goal will be simply to path in and defeat the Lostwood Folly map to juice all the surrounding false temples, which you will then run in sequence, all of those false temples, for a decent amber profit. You'll then use that profit to buy more sets of echoes from Mask and transition into the more efficient version. You should only have to do this once, really. Especially if you're also using the Cemetery of Reweaving to recycle some of your unwanted echoes. In my test of one Lostwood Folly surrounded by false temples, I spent 5,500 memory amber and walked away with about 7,500 or 2,000 amber profit, and that was without the amber boosting passives, which should give another 600 or so. I've included those passives in the recommended trees just to be safe. And that's also not counting the fact that I got more of the maps, the echoes, as I was doing them too. So, once you have enough for 3 or more sets of Lostwood Follies and false temples, you want to set them up in a daisy chain format like this. While this is less memory amber efficient, it's more time efficient. So you just quite simply make a line of Lostwood Follies, and then you flank those follies with false temples. You can leave the end open to add more echoes to later if you just want to continue the strategy. Once you get some more amber, you can go buy some more echoes, go do another cemetery somewhere, and just add to the end of it. Or you can cap it off with some false temples if you prefer. So step 5 is to, if you're playing Circle of Fortune, grab some Prophecies and then get farming. Focus on the Prophecies that trigger on rares, champions, or echo completions. Your chosen timeline boss and Orobyss is also good if you're planning on doing those too. Then once you've loaded up on as many echoes as you can get for whatever you're farming for, you want to run your Lostwood Follies first, just straight down the middle of that daisy chain formation. Each folly you complete empowers all surrounding false temples, and there's some overlap going on there as well. And then once you've done all your Lostwood Follies, it's time for your payoff. You run the single and double juiced temples down each side and enjoy life and all of the loot. And lastly, for step 6 is to reload. Once you run out of echoes, you either do a cemetery map and add more to the chain, or you can start a new chain if you prefer. Take your amber and purchase any extra follies and temples you need from Mask. Then don't forget to restock on Prophecies as well. You can also run your timeline boss fight if that's ready to go. Often that'll be ready for like 1 or 2 fights in sequence. And if you're pushing corruption, once you've kind of completed all your echoes before you place new ones, you can run Orobyss if he is spawned, which if you're at 8 gaze of corruption will be guaranteed. Just remember to complete all of your placed echoes first, as, you know, defeating Orobyss does reset the timeline. You can also farm Orobyss without pushing corruption by taking the Purge to Horizon passive. If you're doing that, you may also want to consider the Abyssal Trap passive too, just for those random Orobyss spawns. So now let's talk about the 2 specific woven echoes, how they work and what you want to do in them. Lostwood Folly first, that's the map that contains each of the 3 Fates bosses in it, and they're just kind of roaming around quite quickly sometimes. The map is densely packed with monsters, but it's not really a good map to farm. Instead, your strategy should be to race to each boss and take them down. Each of them drops their woven uniques as well, so this is a great place to farm things like Scissors of Atropos, which is a pretty high DPS sword, quite good for a lot of builds. Grab any, Nemesis, Exiles, or Caches on the way, but just skip over the regular monsters and focus on getting those bosses down. There'll be far better regular monster killing going on in the False Temples a little bit later on. Once you've killed all 3 bosses, you can leave, and the Lostwood Folly will add packs of possessed and woven monsters to any echoes adjacent to it. In our case, that'll be the excellent farming map, False Temple. So False Temple is a big interior map filled with a huge number of shrines. The objective is to activate enough shrines to draw out an ambushing champion, and this usually happens within about 1/3 to 1/2 of the shrines on the map, so pretty quickly. But when you kill that champion, you don't want to leave. The real goal here is, of course, to farm this map, using the shrines to boost your loot, XP, and gold, while also making you faster and more powerful. So, continue on. The layout is a large square with a few intersections and a slight maze formation, and the layout is very consistent. You want to make your way to the outer square first and then run the full outer area. Just keep an eye out for this little bottom section here where you can do kind of a wiggle to catch any extra shrines and any juicy packs of enemies. Once you've done your full loop around the outside, you'll want to cut through the middle and just clear through that center area. You can just kind of poke into any little branches you haven't explored. If you do it like this, there's not really any backtracking, and you'll get it down after a few runs of practice. Now, overall, it's important that you try and maintain momentum. You don't need to be like hyper fast or anything. Obviously, it's better the faster you go, but you just want to make sure that you're making full use of your shrines. You don't really want to be getting just distracted and wasting shrines ultimately. So for this, I recommend focusing on the rare monsters, champions, and the packs of woven enemies, which give the amber drops and other good drops. You want to skip over the small kind of random normal enemies to focus on the more rewarding stuff, so don't feel compelled to like clean up every monster in the map. When you first start, you want to click a few shrines before you worry too much about killing, just to kind of get the snowball happening. And I will say, and this one's a little tough at first, but you want to resist using the nemesis eggs when you encounter nemesis enemies. Your shrines will run out while you look through your stash to find something to put in. If you pre-plan it and have something ready to go in your inventory and you can just drop it in quickly, then go for it. But in my opinion, just empower twice and challenge for random boss like bonus exalted items and the occasional good legendary. The eggs just turn into a random unique if you don't put something in there after all, so that could be something you want in the end. Look, if you want to actually upgrade your uniques with nemesis, then use the nemesis tower farming strategy I detailed in another video. It's way faster for that than doing it here. And finally, and I know this is a little bit of a meme, but upgrade your loot filter. Seriously. Mine's pretty good here, but notice how I'm still getting way too many unique rings and things like that showing up that I don't care about, and that's slowing me down as I check them for LP. I didn't actually realize that they added the ability to sort by LP now as well. I thought you couldn't do that because I remember them saying they never wanted to do that. But anyway, now you can actually add specific uniques to your filter and hide everything else, or show uniques only above a certain LP. So a lot of these rings I could set to 3 or 4 LP and hide all the 1s and 2s that I don't want. And you certainly, definitely need to make sure that you're only highlighting exalted items that are incredible or perfect for you, so that you can just click them. Ideally, you don't want to be having to check them on the ground like I'm doing a bit here. I'm hiding a lot of stuff, but it could still be a lot better. If you can just pick the things up that show up, because you know they're going to be good, then that's ideal. And here's some extra juicing tips or notes about certain passives and things like that you can do to take advantage of here. The first is the dungeon boss drops, and this is something I've seen people overlook because on paper it sounds worse than it is. That's the Warden's Echo passive. This sounds like it just adds 1 pack to your map, but it really seems to scatter a ton of rares from the dungeons in your maps when it triggers. It's very rewarding. They super frequently drop uniques from the dungeon bosses. In a map, I often get like 5 or more dungeon boss specific uniques, so it's insanely good for farming legendary potential uniques from the bosses, things that are really good, like Peak of the Mountain, for example. You basically never have to step foot in a dungeon outside Temporal Sanctum for crafting ever again, I think, with this. Like, I need Foot of the Mountains with at least 1 LP for my next build, and I have like a stash tab of them now from just running this node while I was doing this strategy. Next up is Orobyss drops. You can optionally drop 1 point into Abyssal Trap for just random shade of Orobyss spawns. Doesn't happen super often, but every now and then, you know, you get an extra little Orobyss that you'll kill pretty quickly because you'll be juiced up with a bunch of shrines. Especially if you're over 200 corruption, you can be trying to get those ominous drops, for example. Weaver's Will item farming in here is really good. The Lostwood Folly has 1 of each of the 3 bosses, of course, so you're getting Clotho's Needle, Scissors of Atropos, and Blight of Lachesis while doing this. But you'll also get a massive supply of good Weaver's Will items thanks to Prime Weaver and Woven Treasure passives. These passives are insane. If you ever want any Weaver's Will item, which most builds want 1 or 2, these passives are insanely powerful, especially for the fact that it's boosting that Weaver's Will average amount. I'm far more often seeing like 20 or 21s and the occasional 24. Of course, if you just don't want any Weaver's Will items, or you've already got, you know, your pretty much ideal one socketed, then you can drop these passives and spend them elsewhere. Rune farming here is okay, not necessarily the best. I think maybe like Cemetery of Reweaving farming is probably best for rune farming, but it is still pretty easy to just drop 1 point into Fury and Fortune. It makes the enemies tougher, but they drop way more runes and glyphs, and the extra challenge here is pretty mitigated by the shrines. The possessed enemies seem to drop a fair few more runes of Havoc and Redemption, and I get 1 every so often from this. Just remember to unspec the passive before you move on to other content, don't forget about it. Finally, if you're a Merchant's Guild and you need gold, or you just need to buy some more stash tabs because you're a hoarder, then you can drop 2 points into Xeric's Aid for the chance to Xeric occasionally join you for a juicy gold find echo. It's only 7%, so it's pretty inconsistent, but when he does spawn, it basically triples your gold, so it's kind of fun. It's only a couple passives, but I will say this strategy is especially good if your love language is words of affirmation.
Yeah, you cut through them like butter. I would hate to be on your bad side. They never stood a chance.
I hope you enjoyed this last Epoch farming guide. Has there been any strategy that's worked really well for you or better than this one? I haven't found anything yet that's overall better for just kind of like mixed a bit of everything. You know, there's targeted farms like the Nemesis Towers that are better specifically for upgrading uniques, for example, but for overall like XP and loot explosions, this has been it for me so far. Or perhaps maybe there's something you want to learn more about, let me know, and I'll consider making a video about it. That's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.